What's up, guys? Phoenix here. Just got back from the ARG circuit series in Nashville. Didn't do as well as I wanted to. I started out very well, and then I just had a downward spiral over the rest of the day, and ended up, finishing X2-1 because I started out undefeated until round 5, and then just had a draw, and then lost 3 in a row, and it was really unnecessarily bad how the day ended. But I did have fun, and I'm just going to show you guys today what deck I played. I did play Heretic Rulers, or Ruleratics, as some people like to call them. Um, I picked up this deck. I started testing this deck like a week and a half before the event. It worked pretty solid. It seemed pretty good. Going into the event, I was very confident in the deck choice because I thought not a lot of people knew enough about it for it to be, as heavily represented as it was. But it was like 30% of the field or something obscurely like large like that. And it really just made it very difficult because I was prepared for the mirror match, but I wasn't like dedicating a lot of my side deck to it as much as other people were, and that's what caused me to lose 2 of my mirror matches and just not overall do very well. Um, if I ever played this deck again, I absolutely like as of right now, I absolutely despise this deck. I hate it. It loses to itself way too much. It's too frail, and it doesn't seem as optimal as it could be. Now there may be something that can be changed about it, that maybe someone could figure out. But for as of right now, I would not play this deck at YCS Atlanta. Like, I've already figured out what I'm playing at YCS Atlanta, and so I've started testing that. But this is what I played over the course of the weekend. Just the 4 Dragon Rulers, and this is honestly the thing you have to look at with this deck is that you have to keep the mindset that this is a Dragon Ruler deck. This is not a Heretic deck. It just uses the Hieratic engine to facilitate quick and easy access into these 4 Dragon Rulers, and then keep a constant flow of food in the graveyard for them. So it is going to look a little bit different from your standard Hieratic deck. 3 Assets, 3 Tefnuits, and 3 Sue is the entire Hieratic engine. You do not run Nepthet because it does not do anything to further your plays very much. I mean, sure, you'll be able to go a set Sue into, or a set Nepthet into like a Star Eater, but why do that when you could just go into a Sue and make an Atom, get out a Dragon Ruler, and then do things like that? This deck's entire main function was around opening either a set or Tefnuit and Sue, and any way to get to a Dragon Ruler outside of those 2, and you'd open a Tum Draco Sack, or you'd be able to open a Tum Big Eye if your opponent had a Draco Sack. Just things like that were what made the deck fundamentally solid in theory, but it just didn't seem to work out too well. 1 Debris Dragon, Flamvell Guard, and Labradite Dragon are your 2 vanillas for the Heretic engine. The Guard allows you to do things like go Tefnuit Sue into Black Rose, or allow you to, make Stardust or level 8s, any other level 8 off your Dragon Rulers, and these are also both debris targets. So if you have like Tefnuit Debris with this engrave, you can Tefnuit, summon Debris, get this back, make an Atum, get out a Dragon Ruler, and then sync with the Debris left over into Star Eater. It just gives the deck a lot of recovery plays and a lot of power plays with the Debris Dragon that were really good. I liked how the deck played overall. It's too frail. I enjoyed playing the deck, and it was very fun to play, but it just loses to itself because you just open vanillas, or you open a hand of like 3 of 1 Heretic, and you just can't get anything going. I ran 1 card D just for, just to have the option to draw into it when I'm going first. I drew into it a lot, and it almost always went off. There's one time when it got booked, but then I just flipped the next turn and synced with a Labradite Dragon into an 8. And then it being an Earth, if you draw it late game, you can do things with Redox to do Reborn plays and stuff like that. And then the last 2 monsters I run were 2 Max Cs. I made a last-minute decision to put these in just because I saw how many Heretic Rulers were actually there. And then there was a lot of, just other random decks that did special summon a lot, like 3.5 Axis Fire Fist, Infernity. There's some water there, a bunch of stuff. So I just made the last-minute decision to put those in, and it was a very good decision overall. So I believe that's 19 monsters. For the spells, I ran 3 Heretic Seal Convocation, 3 Upstart Goblin, Only 2 Dragon Shrine. I was running 3, but I cut it to 2 because I was opening multiples of it too often. And with the Max C's, the Card, the Upstarts, and the Reckless Greeds, I didn't want to see multiples. And if you run 3, you have like a 10% chance of opening multiples. Whereas if you run 2, you only have, I think, like a 3 or 4% chance of opening multiples. It's something very small. And you only really need 1. You cycle into your other dragons quickly enough with the Heretic engine. I probably would run 3 if I ran the deck again, or I would probably run a Foolish Burial instead of the 3rd. That way you could have the potential to draw the Foolish with it and then put 2 dragons in the grave. Things like that just overall are what I would probably do if I ever decided to play this deck again. I'm not too sure. 3 MSTs mained. A lot of people weren't maining MSTs. I was maining Wing Beats, but they weren't doing what they needed to be doing, and MST was just a generic good card. It did make for some cloggy hands, so I probably would allocate one of them to the side deck if I played this at another event. And then the 1 Book of Moon. This card just was very good all over the course of the day. Being able to like book a Tums, and then like Big Eye, take it and flip it, use it as my own, and then do some like stuff like Gaia Dragon over it, or just setting up Crimson Blader plays by booking like a Big Eye when they were trying to do things. Just making your opponent waste resource just to be able to book it and then Crimson Blader over it in the mirror, do things like that. It was just really what kind of sealed me a lot of games over the course of the weekend. And that's all the spells. As for traps, I ran 9, I believe. 3 Reckless Greed. I absolutely hate this. I would swap these out for like the Foolish, a Torrential, and another card car. Like all the games that I lost to the mirror were just being locked under Reckless, and then my stuff got big-eyed. Like it just wasn't as ideal or optimal as it could have been, and it really, really sucked. I only ran 2 Ashes because I didn't see the need for 3. I didn't want my hands to be clogged with them, because you want to actually draw your Heretics before you just start dumping them for Dragon Rulers. But every single one of these cards that you have is basically a free Dragon Ruler for the turn, because you just put a Heretic in your grave on your opponent's turn, and then on your turn you put one of your banished Heretics back into your graveyard. So that's the 2 dragons you need in your graveyard for any Dragon Ruler summon. And also, if it leaves the field, you special summon a Heretic from your grave. So if it gets blind spaced, it's basically an Abyss Sphere. Like, you just dump Sue into the grave and then special summon it, and now your opponent has to either get over the Sue, or they cannot reliably set back row, or else it's just going to be popped by Sue. And there were plenty of games that I won simply off of its secondary effect. One of which I was in time, and it was my last turn in time. It was turn 5. It was the last turn of time, and I was at 48, and my opponent was at 58, and it was a mirror. And I knew he had a Swift Scarecrow in hand. I just knew it was there because he just wasn't worried about not making that many plays. And he had mind-controlled, or he'd Electric Virus my Labradite Dragon and put it under his Atum. And that Atum, I had Book of Moon. So all he had was a face-down Atum, and my Labradite Dragon's under it. And I'm like, what do I do? How do I make a play? So I have 2 of these face up on the field, and I'm like, wait a second. I go Tefnuit Sue into the guard and make Black Rose and blow up both of these, and then got back 2 of my Heretics, and then made my own Atum, and got out another Dragon Ruler, and then normal summoned Debris Dragon from my hand and made a Star Eater, which is, unaffected by Swift Scarecrow, and then attacked with the Star Eater, and he showed me the 2 Scarecrows in his hand, and he was fucking pissed. So it let me do a bunch of unfair things over the course of the day, and they did get blind spaced a lot. It was a little bit too much fun. But I don't think this card actually deserves the price tag that it currently has. It's really not necessary. It helps, but it's not necessary, and it's very, very subpar. For the last 4 traps I ran 2 Fiendish Chain instead of the skill drains because I wanted to have better blanket matchups. And I sided the skill drains and said I wanted to be able to stop attacks. That was a big thing for me. I wanted to be able to stop attacks because I wanted to be able to protect my Atum and things like that. If I open like Atum and it gets Veilered and I have a skill drain, then I would just be in a very, very unfortunate position, and I didn't like that position, so I swapped them out with the Fiendish Chains so I could just stop an attack and stop an effect and do things like that. And then the last 2 traps were Bottomless and Warning. And it's a 40-card deck with just a shit ton of draw power. onto the extra deck is very, very sort of standard. Star Eater, Crimson Blader, Scrap Dragon, Stardust Spark Dragon. If you opened any 3 Heretics and you didn't have a way to another Dragon Ruler, you could just open Atum and Spark Dragon and protect the Atum for the next turn. Regular Stardust and Black Rose are the Synchros, and then for the Exceeds, 2 copies of Dracosac, the 1 Big Eye, 1 Gaia Dragon, the Thunder Charger, 1 Conceal Ptolemy, 1 Photon Strike Bouncer, 1 Gauntlet Launcher. This card is really good. And then 2 Heretic Dragon King of Atums. The main purpose of Gauntlet Launcher was really, really straightforward. Now, if you got Max Seed, you have these 3 that you would potentially want to go into. If you had like traps to back it up, you'd either go into Bouncer or Ptolemy. And Bouncer would be so you could like negate effects, and Ptolemy would be so you could like add things back to your hand to make that play again. Because if you dedicated 2 Heretics to your combo, you could just give them 1 more draw off the Max C, go into Ptolemy, and you could add your Sue back to hand. And then next turn, if you were able to protect this, you could add the other Heretic back to your hand in the same fashion and do the play again. But if you didn't have any traps, you have Gauntlet Launcher, and he's got 2800 defense, and that's why this was run. If you got Max Seed, you would just go into, and you had no traps to protect yourself, you just go into Gauntlet Launcher, and it's got 2800 defense, so you couldn't get Crimson Bladered in the mirror. And also, this 1 card is a single out to Dracosac, because you could just summon it and attack a token, and then use its effect twice to blow up the other token in the Dracosac. So that's ultimately why that was run. The 2 Atums were very straightforward. Side deck. My side deck was very strange, because there was a lot of things that I wasn't maining that I just allocated to the side. 2 copies of Electric Virus for the mirror. I actually did side this in against Geargia, and I took his Gear Gigant, and because I had spaced his Wabaku, so he chained it. So I Electric Virus his Gear Gigant, and used its effect to search my card car, and I already had a Scrap Dragon on board. And so I used Scrap Dragon to pop the Gear Gigant, and then pop another back row. And then I just normal summoned card car and used its effect to draw 2 and end my turn. So I sided it in against that, and then every mirror I played, and it was always really good. 2 Wingbeat of Giant Dragon, and then I sided the 1 Dark Hole. I just wanted the Dark Hole to have, blanket clearing. I only ever sided it in if I was going into Game 3 and it was very close to time, because I wanted this card to just be able to wipe the field and give me clear shots for damage. And that's all it was ever used for. If I played Prophecy over the weekend, I'd probably side it against that too. 2 copies of Decree, 2 copies of Mind Crush. Against the same Gear player in Game 3, I actually Mind Crushed for Gear Accelerator after he flipped his armor, and he dropped all 3 of them out of his hand. Other than that, it didn't really do much over the course of the weekend. I did use it to Mind Crush some Effect Veilers and Swift Scarecrows in the mirror. But other than that, nothing really major. 2 DNA Surgery for, the Prophecy matchup, the Bujin matchup, all that. 2 Rivalry of Warlords for Mermails and things that I just rather not deal with because my entire deck is Dragon. And then 2 Skill Drains, which I think I sided this in against almost everything. Like, I really wish I had mained these over the course of the weekend. Like, the Fiendish Chain idea was sound in my mind, but then I just kept swapping them out for the Skill Drains in everything but the mirror matches, and it made more sense that way. So, I don't know. I don't know if I'd ever play this deck again, though, truth be told. It didn't perform up to my standards, and I have another deck that I think I'm going to play instead. So, other than that, I will resume my Yu-Gi-Oh! Pro Marathonings tomorrow. I decided just to, instead of trying to rush videos out and get them out while I was doing other things, I would just postpone it, and then just start back on when I got back and had more time to make actual quality videos. So, just look out for that. As always, guys, comment, rate, subscribe. Click on that if you have not. I'd greatly appreciate it. And, as always, take care. I will see you all next time.